Hey, Paul, how are you?
Hey, fantastic, brother. How are you?
I am outstanding. I am super excited for you to be on the Finding Purpose Livecast today. Excited for your
Yes.
new book. Excited to talk about purpose and how that just really drives so many things forward. But I know that you've had a very, very busy season, and I'm glad that you've taken time out to spend some time with us today.
It's truly an honor and pleasure. And hello to all of, as I call the Purpose Mafia out there. This is an amazing tribe. So can't wait to just get the gears in motion for the next half hour with y'all.
It's going to be fantastic. And for those of
Yeah.
you listening today, we're here with Paul Epstine. He is the author of the new book, The Power of Playing Offense, which will be out March 30th. And he's also the founder of Purpose Labs and has an incredible background that ranges from the NFL through a myriad of different things. So without further ado, Paul, why don't, for those of you, especially who they don't even know who you are, why don't
Yeah.
you take us back to however far you want to take us back? Tell us your story, who Paul is, and kind of how you got started.
Yeah, no doubt. So I am an LA born and raised guy, and by background, so American, and also my mom is of proud Mexican descent. And I bring that up because when you're from LA, you're about a 4-hour drive from the border. I got to really split my childhood between both, between Southern California and Mexico. And the reason that was so formative is it got me tapped into people. It got me tapped into culture. It got me tapped into humble beginnings. It got me tapped into, hey, there's, even though maybe you cross the border and there's a certain lifestyle and a way of living and a way of understanding certain things, you're a 3-4 hour drive away and it feels like you're on the other side of the globe in some cases. And that was extremely critical in my growth, in my development, in my upbringing. And as I parlay it now into, so you go through the whole school process, and I still remember thinking about what type of environment I wanted to be in. And I always had those warm childhood memories. And so fast forward high school, then I go to college at USC. So I stayed pretty close to the nest. And that was an amazing experience. That got me tied into not only the business circles, but then just being such a massive sports community. And so then lo and behold, while I'm at SC, I'm in a Fortune 10. I'm doing extremely well for myself. And this is kind of where purpose starts to come into the fold. And I felt called into doing something, but sometimes you can't script it, as you know, Davin. And for everybody listening in, everybody always thinks there's this miraculous moment. And for me, the way that I broke into the sports world was really fascinating because I'm out there, I'm doing my thing, I'm in my Fortune 10 gig, driving around as an outside territory sales manager. And then an ESPN radio commercial comes on, and Mel Kiper, the NFL draft guru, says, have you ever wanted to work in sports? Have you ever wanted to be in the NFL, NBA? And I'm speeding. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I'm just going down the highway. And I share this with you because that opportunity took me from a place where I checked all the boxes to the outside world. Great school, great brand, Fortune 10, check, check, check. But then I took a leap, my first of many since leaps, into a job that was a 4-hour shift up to a full-time rank, $7 an hour, 3% commission, minimal opportunity for any growth or benefits. And it was the easiest decision I ever made. Because when you kind of sense that there is a passion deep down inside you, I just viewed it as a merging of two of the most special worlds I could think of. I knew I loved business. I knew I loved sports. And this, even in my book, the header of this section is 6 figures to $7. And again, it was one of the easiest decisions I ever made. So now you fast forward, before I ever even knew that there was a playbook called Playing Offense around the corner, I started to see these early glimpses of purpose. I started to see how from the LA Clippers, we turned a team that was 28th in league revenue to second, and it was 100% people and culture driven. Fast forward, I'm at the then New Orleans Hornets. Now they're the Pelicans. NBA commissioner essentially gives us an ultimatum: hit this revenue mark, or unfortunately, we're going to have to relocate the team. How did we salvage the NBA franchise? We created an I'm In campaign. I'm In spoke to the identity of a New Orleanian heart. And essentially we asked, are you in? Are you in to protect the brand and the purpose and the identity of your city? And when we started to have experiences like that, I didn't knew what purpose was at the time. I didn't use that word, but I can now reflect back, and those early glimpses that sense of deeper meaning, that sense of knowing what tribe you are a part of and also what tribe you're not a part of. And most importantly, and I'll end here, I started to understand the nuance of not the golden rule of treat others as you want to be treated, but the platinum rule, treat others how they want to be treated. From those early formative years, from the childhood all the way through the early professional stages, I've always thought about being inclusive, putting myself in other people's shoes, asking people what's most important to you. And then in my words, meeting them at the 50. And that's kind of the spirit of partnership that I've attacked each day with. And yeah, there's been some hard left turns. There's been some do-overs, but there's been some non-purpose driven moments, but certainly that's kind of the guiding light that got me started.
So good. So good. I love the idea. First of all, I love the elevation from the golden rule to the platinum rule, right? Transition, because we talk about this. Purpose is an others focused word. So many people think, well, purpose is about me. What do I want to do? Or what's my motivation? No, purpose is about how are you using your gifts, talents, abilities, those things that are within inside you, your experiences to help others. And so to take that golden rule and turn it into the platinum rule of forget about treating others how you want to be treated, treat them how they want to be treated, that others focusedness, which really embodies every bit of who I've learned that you are over the last couple of years and comes through with every word that you say, with the different works that you've approached purpose with. And there's kind of this transition from, this amazing corporate career of helping, massive franchises in the sports place to kind of this ideation and founding of Purpose Labs. Talk to us about that journey.
Well, Purpose Labs on the top level, and I'm all about the why, but let me just spend 5 seconds on the what. We are a leadership and culture consultancy. So now that the what is out of the way, because I'd really rather talk about the why, let's talk about the origin story. Go back to what I just described about the platinum rule. So really that's the basis of leadership, because I'll tell you, my first 6 months in what I'll call management, my first time having a reporting team, which is very different from being a leader, where I really messed up the first 6 months. I thought everybody was motivated by the same things I was. In other words, I was the golden rule. I wasn't the platinum rule. And so in essence, everybody has their own unique motivations, their own passions, strengths, gifts, talents, all of those. And when I started to harness and understand that, that's really what propelled me into elevating my leadership career, because to your point, it was about service, contribution, and impact. I started to measure success through the lens of impact, which is also one of my core values. Essentially, every day I get my head off the pillow. Did I make a difference? Did I make a difference? Like that is my journal at the beginning and the end of each day. I parlay that into my 49er career. So basically it was LA, then New Orleans, Sacramento, that was NBA. I go work in the NFL league office, oversee a national campaign for the Super Bowl, then get called over to open up Levi Stadium with the Niners. The reason the Niners are so critical to the Purpose Labs journey is because at a leadership offsite retreat at the 49ers, that is where I found my personal why. It was essentially a 2-day experience. And I not only found that North Star, but more importantly, I unearthed my core values. So everybody here thinks about the discovery of purpose. Some of us have found it. Others of us are still in the pursuit of it. I think that is less than half of the game. The rest, and in my opinion, the more important, is the sustainment and the impact of your purpose. And so in other words, from discovery to decision, the decisions that you make, the application of your process is more important than anything else. Some concrete examples: impact being a core value. I ask myself, can I create more impact at the 49ers or outside of these 4 walls? I love the industry. I love the organization, but the answer was simple. See if this sounds familiar based on my original leap of faith into sports. Then my core value of courage and taking a leap of faith into the entrepreneurial space, which is not easy. Like you go into a world where 9 out of 10 fail, and I'm probably being kind. And you feel called into decisions like that. And so really what inspired me to start Purpose Labs was finding my why changed my life. And because of that, I would feel selfish to not pay that gift of purpose forward, whether it's to an individual, to a team, to an organization. My job is to activate somebody's purpose. And that covers, again, from scaled cultures and enterprise all the way down to an individual coaching capacity. What is your compass? Do you have clarity and conviction in each day? Do you know not only why you serve, but what is the why of your team or organization? And are they aligned? That is the work, and that is the spirit of what Purpose Labs does. And I'll tell you, Davin, and this sounds cliche, but it's 100% real. I don't even feel like it's work, man. Like for me, this is 100% what I was called to do. It is my mission. There is no end game. I used to know exactly what was next. When I was a director, I was then going to be a VP and then a senior VP and then on and on and on up this treadmill. You ask me what's next, I've got ideas, but I love that I don't fully know what's next because this is a lifelong mission. And that's what I hope to inspire others to do, is just to breathe the same life into others that was breathed into me starting at that offsite retreat.
So good. And I love the phrase from discovery to decision, because I think, and that's not the last time we'll hear that today or in the future, but there are so many people who I feel like they're on the kind of this hamster wheel of life, right? They're going through the motions, and listen, it's not their fault. We were all taught, go to school, get a great education, find a great
100%.
Work 30 years of your life, retire with the gold watch, all that stuff. But the world has changed, right? 2008 happened. The bottom fell out. A lot of those promises changed. COVID happened. The world fell apart. A lot of those things changed. And so this idea of kind of what's next, and us always having kind of this like plan of how we think things are supposed to play out versus focusing on what is it that I'm made to do right now? What are my gifts, talents, and abilities, and how am I supposed to be using those to add value to the lives of those in front of me? If I'm an organization, how are we supposed to be using those to add value to our communities or those that we serve or our employees right now? And then kind of this moment-to-moment discovery process to then decision-making. And then, like you said, I love it. I don't know what's next, but I have ideas. And really, it's those ideas minute by minute that shape our future. I'm sure that when you were on this journey, you probably weren't like, hey, what's next is I'm going to write a book. But you had this idea to write a book. And now that book is coming out in a couple of days. So talk to us about, how did that idea pop into your head, which led to this book, and what the book is about?
Yeah, you can hear me laughing in the background because this one was a gnarly one in the sense of it's a product of the pandemic. And I'll just really cut to the chase with that. January of 2020, I started Purpose Labs. So the 2 years in between day-to-day in the trenches of the sports business leadership ranks and then starting Purpose Labs, I was a part of a leadership institute led by Bob Chapman, the Chapman & Co. Leadership Institute. His book, Everybody Matters, really aligned with my philosophies, and it got me exposed to the consulting space. I call it a leadership laboratory is really what it was. And it got me immersed outside of the sports industry into the business leadership ranks. I share that with you because then starting in Purpose Labs, January of 2020, life was amazing. Life was perfect. I, just like the rest of you listening in, I didn't know the world was going to stop spinning figuratively 2.5 months later. So imagine you start a company and imagine you're flying high for about 75 days. And then bang, mid-March 2020. So what happens is, and again, this comes back to my purpose, just like anybody else, if I'm being real and human and authentic here, you don't just dust yourself off in a minute or in a day or even in a week. Sometimes it takes more time. But once I could dust myself off of like, wow, I rely on the live events business. I rely on big in-person gatherings for my livelihood. Gone. Calendar wiped clean. So this is not some Pollyanna-ish story. This is a story how purpose became the fuel of my resilience and my courage to battle through this because I knew what my purpose was. And so essentially, to be very specific and concrete, what I did, I looked at all of my mid to long-term objectives as the CEO, founder of Purpose Labs. And on that list was writing a book. Would I have written a book in 2020? Probably not. I probably would have gone deep into the consulting space, gathered even more intel, and then at the appropriate time, put pen to paper. And it's not an overnight process, as you know, from being a multiple time author, Davin. And so really what this did, I focused on building infrastructure. I focused on how can I come out of this storm being the pandemic bigger, faster, stronger. And I just thought, if you want to be a top thought leader in this world, you got to have that written piece of work, of art, of just thought leadership in order to be able to scale influence and impact and inspiration. And that's really where the book became a no-brainer. It became a non-negotiable. And I kid you not, I went heads down and cranked out a 60,000 word manuscript in less than 2.5 months, all a product of the pandemic, all in quarantine mode. And now I always hear this phrase about, does life happen to you or for you? 100%. I did not want what happened because of the pandemic, just like most of us did not, but it became a blessing in disguise. And my life, my career, my inspiration, my purpose wouldn't be as strong today had it not been for the, you know what, hitting the fan in mid-March of 2020. That's a part of my story, and I wouldn't change a minute of it. So
good. And I remember that time, and that was such an unbelievable time for so many in every industry, in every part of the world. But like you, same for me, same with many other speakers, authors, thought leaders, our year ended, right? I mean, their calendars were wiped clean. And now it's like, well, now what do you do? And so I said something back at that time is you had 3 choices. You could either panic, which does no good. You can pander, which is I'm going to just kind of give into the set of events that are happening to me, right? Life is happening to me, and I'm just going to kind of give in and wait for it to pass by. Or you could position, and you could say, you know what, this is happening for a reason. How do I need to pivot or reposition what it is that I do, what it is that I'm gifted at to meet a need in this moment? And for you, it really wasn't about how do I survive and make money. It was really this idea of, well, you knew what your purpose was. You knew that your purpose was to use these insights, these gifts, these talents, the experiences that you've had that you would traditionally impart on the hearts and minds of others from a stage, from a platform, which was now pulled out from underneath you. And you're saying, how can I still take what's in here and what's in here and give it to those out there that 100% this moment of time? And the answer was the power of playing offense.
It was 1,000,000%. You said it best. It was to serve. Like, if I would have done what's best for me, I would have been cranking out a virtual keynote every single day for the whole time, because, hey, that's what puts food on the table. And don't get me wrong, there are realities of life, and we still have to take care of those that matter and our families. And especially myself, hot off the press, January 2021, baby PJ comes out. So I was really experiencing the pandemic in the household where we were hunkering down, and we were pregnant, man. So it was real. But the more I thought about it, I said, am I playing the short game or the long game? And that's the evolution from career to calling. Career, job for sure, short game. Career is a hybrid. Some play short, some play long. Calling, I don't know anybody that has a calling that plays the short game. It does not exist. And so for me, being called into the space, the long game was, how can I serve others? And it turned out to be a 60,000 word manuscript that I'm just so fired up to share with the world.
So good. That was powerful. From job, short game, career, mid, hybrid, to calling, long game, right? And like you said, I don't know anyone who's discovered their calling that plays it like a short game. Take us inside a little bit. I know that the book comes out March 30th, but take us a little bit into the book itself. Tell us about kind of the core message of it, and just walk us through the power of playing offense.
Yeah, so I'll share the high level, and then I'm going to drill deep, knowing the community we're engaging with. I'm going to go deep on purpose to close this out. So high level, for one, what is playing offense? And the more that I observe high performance, which that is ultimately, we're all held accountable to perform as people, as professionals, regardless of what hat we wear. Now, I'm in a high performance environment in the professional sports game, 15 years, largely in leadership roles, NFL, NBA, and you get to experience the haves from the have-nots, the elite performers from the pack. And I essentially can distill everybody now and say, there are people that play offense and there are people that play defense. Offense always on their toes. Defense, playing on their heels. Offense is playing to win. So in a year like 2020, it's what you described. It's a pivot. It's a reinvent. It's an intentional one step back, knowing that they're going to take 10 forward. That's still offense, even in a time of adversity. Defense, the most common phrase of defense is you're presented with something new or innovative and you say, well, we're not going to do it because, quote, we've always done it that way before. And, you think about that mindset. You stunt growth, you stunt innovation, you stunt motivation, you stunt morale, you stunt the life of just somebody's vitality. And now, lastly, defense is going to be the market dictates the terms, the way you described it, 2020 pandemic. How do you respond to it? Versus offense, you play the game on your terms. You take control of your future. You play with purpose. You play with passion. So now that I've described it, the question is for everybody listening in, how do you want to play? How do you want your team to play? How do you want your organization to play? And I don't know about you, but I choose offense 1,000,000 out of 1,000,000 times. And so with that being the spirit of the book, I've now constructed, because that's great for the raw inspiration. Now, how do I apply it on Monday morning? One of my pet peeves, Davin, is that we live in a world where it's all quick hit sugar highs. Like, even in this video, I would be remiss if we didn't provide people with something tangible, actionable, something they could implement immediately into their life, because that's how we truly create impact. And so with my pet peeve being that there's a gap in actionable content, I did the exact opposite with this. There's over 50 portable activities and exercises on how you can play offense effective immediately. And what I did, I separated it in 5 pillars. One is living with championship purpose, which I'm going to come back to. That is all about that deeper meaning. The second pillar is about being a storm chaser, meaning how do you cultivate grit and how do you master resilience? Those two are all about leadership of self, because the premise of the book is before you lead others, you must first lead yourself. So the first 2 pillars are about leadership of self. Third and fourth pillars, now leading others. Salute the long snapper is the third. That is to create an inclusive and empowering environment where everybody matters, because you and I both know they're star quarterbacks and the long snapper is that forgotten person in the locker room. If you belittle that second person, they play small and you're not going to get any of their contributions. They're going to become disengaged and it sucks the inspiration out of a locker room. Versus you let them know that they matter. Now they rise up. Now they feel like they have a seat at the table, and now their strengths, gifts, talents, and passions emerge. That's what the third pillar is about. Fourth pillar is about embodying a gold jacket culture. Culture, from my experience, is the competitive advantage, because anything else can be replicated, duplicated, or disrupted. Show me a great culture that can be disrupted. It's very difficult because it's drawn by the spirit of its people. And that's the thing. I'm not relying on technology. I'm not relying on IP or a process. I'm relying on the unique gifts and talents and character of my people. That's the fourth pillar. Last but not least is leave it better than you found it. That's the fifth pillar. This one goes from a life of self to a life of legacy. Basically, there's 2 mountains in life. If the first is solely about success, my argument is yes to success and, more importantly, to significance. And so we end talking about significance and contribution. And so that is the 5-pillar journey. I mentioned I would come back to purpose. If you don't nail pillar 1, live with championship purpose, none of the rest matters. None of it will sustain itself. None of it will ever be a long-term play, because yes, purpose gives you that inspirational North Star for the blue skies. But every year winter comes. The storm is always around the corner. There's always going to be a defense in a life metaphor that pushes back against you. 2020 is a prime example. My philosophy is that purpose is going to be the fuel of the courage and resilience needed. And here's my anchor thought. Purpose keeps you on the treadmill, especially on the days you want to get off. That's it. Purpose keeps you on the treadmill, especially on the days you want to get off. If you align with that philosophy of purpose and having it be the propeller of how you overcome adversity, then this book is 100% delivering those actionable pieces.
So good, so powerful, so well outlined. And I love how it speaks to every individual as a person. I love how it speaks to leaders. I love how it speaks to organizations. You know, I heard a great quote on a previous episode where someone said, when the rate of change outside of an organization is greater than the rate of change inside an organization, the end is near. And so many organizations are stuck with that. Oh, we've always done it this way, right? They don't realize the field that they're playing on is changing. We used to play this. We like to play board games, and we used to play this game called Pandemic. We don't play it anymore. We stopped playing it. March 12th of 2020, we stopped playing it. But there's a legacy version of it where the board constantly changes, and you need to adjust your strategy. You need to adjust your offensive approach to playing the game to win the game, because the board that you're playing on itself changes, and people don't realize that life is this board game that is constantly changing for companies to play on and for you as an individual contributor to play on. And if you're not playing offense, if you're not abiding by those pillars that you just awesomely outlined, then you're losing the game. 100%. So I love how you outlined that. So powerful. I know that we have a few minutes left, and I know that you're going to be joining us in May for the Purpose Summit, May 11th through the 13th. I'm super excited. I wish you could physically be here in person. I know that you'll be at least virtually, unless some things change between now and May. And we're going to talk, obviously, about your book and some of the things that you outlined here. But take us back. You said it earlier, from discovery to decision. Talk to us about what you're going to be sharing at the Purpose Summit and why that's so powerful, not just in May, but right now.
100%. So from discovery to decision, again, reflecting back on my purpose process, if you will, and it's a never-ending process. Each day is a process. The discovery was only the beginning. Some people feel like they've made it once they have that aha why statement. I think you're just scratching the surface. The key is, once you can apply it to your everyday life, apply purpose to everyday life. My strategy has always been through the lens of my values. How can values be the driver of your decisions? And some concrete examples, macro picture for me, of course, it's easy to say things like impact led to my leap of faith. Courage led to me starting my own business. Those are big. And I don't expect everybody to be able to resonate with that immediately, because that took months, in some cases years, for it to materialize. Let's talk about what we can do today. Two of my other core values, one is belief and another is authenticity. I'll explain both. And let's say these were two words that resonate with you. I believe in people because people have believed in me. That's how I choose to define the value of belief. And the way I activated this on a day-to-day basis is, I used to, using some of my previous terms, I used to only put a light or shine a light on the star quarterback. Sometimes I turned a blind eye, and this is me on my worst day. I didn't always pay attention to the last person in the locker room. I paid attention to the high performers, not the low performers. Shame on me. But once I unearthed my core value of belief, it was a level playing field. Everyone had a seat at the table. I just needed to step into the space of applying one of my values. The next one of authenticity, same thing. Look, you look at my LinkedIn and it looks fantastic. I'll be dead honest with you. My career started great. It has turned out to be great, but there were some rocky times in between. Some times that I'm not proud of who I was. But once I understood my core value of authenticity, I said, I will never sell out for another personal goal or gain. I was selling out to climb the ladder. I was pursuing career growth to a fault and just pleasing people above me in an org chart. I forgot about people to my left, right, and below in an org chart. And that was not who I am on my best day. That's not Paul Epstine and how he was raised, going back to the beginning of our interview. But I needed to unearth my core value of authenticity to say, Paul, you're better than that. So just be true to your values every day. And ever since then, life has taken off because I stopped being about myself. So those are two ways on how you can apply a core value into the day-to-day.
So good. So good. Be true to your core values. Don't lose sight of them. And I
Yeah.
keep on hearing you say over and over and over again, live for others, focus on others, move from chasing success to pursuing significance, and how who you are and what you do can make a difference in this word. Paul, last word to you as we
Yeah.
wrap up. What's one thing, one call to action before we sign off for those listening today? Right now, if this was the last thing that you were ever going to say to anybody, what would it be?
Last thing, no pressure, right? Last thing to say to anybody. I'm going to go back to something I said earlier, but really, as I understand how short life can be, and I lost my dad at 19, and that was a great lesson in the sense of it taught me to maximize every moment. And so my calling to you and my urge to you is that if life can just end, you have to understand what it is that you want to do with your life. How do you want to be remembered? And if you can tap into that end legacy with day-to-day action today, what's one goal that aligns with the impact you want to create? And if your goals connect to your impact, connect to your legacy, then that is a life worth living, because every single day you're being true to your purpose, you're being true to your values, you're being true to who you are. And that would be my closing thought.
So good. Paul, thank you for spending time with us today. I'm excited to hear you at the Purpose Summit in May. I'm excited to digest every word within your book. And for those of you who are still with us and listening, again, we're here with Paul Epstine. His book, The Power of Playing Offense, comes out March 30th. Get your hands on a copy. So powerful, core to purpose, core to identifying who you are, what you do, what your values are, and the difference that you're designed to make in this world. Paul, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Davin, and thank you to everybody for listening, and excited to play offense in the future together.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Until next time on the Finding Purpose Livecast.